Well, good afternoon. My name is James Sanderson. I'm the evangelism minister here at the Brown Street Church of Christ in Waxahachie, Texas. This is video number 2. It's election day here, 2024. Interesting day. And, we can wonder about a lot of things. It's going to be a really anxious day for a lot of people. But it always helps me to get back to the Word of God. And so I hope you do that today. And I hope that this lesson will help us to stay focused today. So what we're going to do in this lesson is we're going to learn the history from the fall of Judah. That was the video that we looked at earlier today, or I did it earlier today. And we're going to look at all the history from there to the book of Malachi, to the end of the Old Testament. And then that's going to bring us to Jesus. So this is going to be a lot of information today. It's going to be really cool. And so stay with me, and I promise you will be blessed. So just a little advertisement. I know I always do this, but you are on my YouTube channel. So if this is the first time we've met, if you want to get back on my YouTube channel and see all these other videos that I do based on the Bible, you can just type in Saving Souls in the 21st Century. I got a couple of channels there, both old and new videos, and see what you like on there and send them to your friends. You also can get on my website, savingsouls.net. That'll tell you all about me and workshops that I have coming up, and my book on evangelism and videos and all that. So get on there if you like, and there's a couple ways to contact me. But what I'm really asking today is that you hit that like button if you like this video. And then if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that. We are wanting to really get those numbers up, and we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and we just need a few more. So I would appreciate that. All right, let's get started today. So we are trying to go from the Old Testament to the New Testament, and just to show that this is one complete story of God's love. And that's what we've been doing here, is a series on the Old Testament and showing that the whole Bible connects into one story of love. It's not separated. And this is actually lesson 23 in that series. So we're going to now look at the Babylonians, okay? They were a major player in history back during Old Testament times. So we're going through a timeline here, and if you were working through this timeline before in the videos before, this will all make sense. If not, you might want to go back and watch a couple videos prior to this. But God is using the Babylonians to take away the Israelites, the tribe of Judah, per se. And they went away in 3 different exiles. They went away in 605. Then the Babylonians came back again in 598, the second exile. And then in 586 BC, they were taken away. The temple is destroyed. Everybody's gone except for the poorest in the land. And God brought this judgment down on Judah because they got away from him. Okay, now that's a lesson that we need to learn so that we don't repeat these lessons. And that was the 3rd exile. So Jerusalem is destroyed in 586 BC. The Babylonians rule them. They are now all enslaved in Babylon. So there they go. They go into captivity, and they make that journey from Jerusalem to Babylon. The walls are torn down. The gates are burned. And the temple is destroyed, and there they go in this disgrace and slavery. It's a really sad story. And here's this temple, this beautiful temple where all these sacrifices went on at, and guess what? It's gone. It's just torn down. It's no more. Now that's got to be really gut-wrenching to the Israelites. To be over here in slavery in Babylon and looking back and going, all that is gone. And so here we are. The northern tribe has already been taken away. And now the southern tribe has been taken away. I mean, they were given this promised land. It is all gone. And guess what? There's pretty much a vacancy sign there, right? They are gone. That's where I grew up at. That's a Rapid River Motel in Kalkaska, Michigan. So I'm very familiar with the word vacancy. We look at this sign all the time. That's a sad story. And then we look at this verse in Isaiah 26. And we looked at this in the last video, but I think it's good to look at it again. It says, when your judgments come upon the earth, the people of the world learn righteousness. God's judgment, right? God's judgment. Though grace is shown to the wicked, they do not learn righteousness. So basically what God's saying here is, when I'm nice to you, world, you don't learn. When I do good things for you, you don't learn. It's only when I bring down judgment, that's when you learn. And is that us? Is that how we are? And the answer is, yeah. Ask my parents. That's what it took. It took judgment for me to learn. It took judgment for me to learn from God. And so here God has brought judgment down on his people. And then we go to Revelation 16, verse 7, and it says, and I heard the altar respond, yes, Lord God Almighty, true and just are your judgments. So here's the altar responding, and that altar has got to be representing just God's people or the angels, or it's just saying we are okay with your judgments, God. What you're doing is just. What you are doing to people is right. And the question is, does God love us enough to hurt us? And he does. He does. Just like you did as parents to your children. So then you've got to start asking this question if you're an Israelite. Okay, here we are. We've been judged. We're in slavery. This was all brought down because we got away from you, God. Worshipped other gods. Where are you? Where are you, God? I mean, that was you back in the temple. You were pictured as being in the temple, and now the temple is gone, and we're in slavery. Are you still there? So there's another prophet that is in place at this time. His name is Ezekiel. This is the book of Ezekiel. And here he is. He's over in Babylon in captivity. He went away with them. Okay? Good people got all the way with the bad. And here's God talking to him, and this is watch what he tells him to do. In the 25th year of our exile, at the beginning of the year, on the 10th of the month, in the 14th year after the fall of the city, Jerusalem fell 14 years ago. On that very day, the hand of the Lord was upon me and took me there. Took me where? Back to Jerusalem. Okay? Let me show you Jerusalem. You mean what's been destroyed? In the visions of God, he took me to the land of Israel and set me on a very high mountain, on whose south side were some buildings that looked like a city. Now remember, this is a vision that he's getting. He took me there, and I saw a man whose appearance was like bronze. He was standing in the gateway with a linen cord and a measuring rod in his hand. Now, what do you do with a measuring rod? You measure things, right? The man said to me, Son of man, look with your eyes and hear with your ears and pay attention to everything I am going to show you, for that is why you have been brought to me. Tell the house of Israel everything you see. Tell them. Okay? So here I am. I'm going to tell them. And so he's taking this measuring rod, and in chapter 40, he's measuring the temple area. The temple area is gone. He's measuring the temple in chapter 41. It's gone. The rooms for the priests, chapter 42, they're gone. Chapter 43 is to measure the altar. It's gone. Dividing the land, 45, well, the land's gone. The gates of the city, chapter 48. What? You want me to measure all of that? All of this was pictured where God was at. This was the tent of meeting. This is where God met with the Israelites. And it's gone. And then you get to the last verse of the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel 48:35, and the name of the city from that time on shall be, the Lord is there. That's the message. God hasn't went anywhere. But wait, the temple's gone. Jerusalem's gone. It's been destroyed. He's gone. No, that's the point. God is saying, look, I am still here. And that's what we need to remember, don't we? No matter what happens today or any other day, we need to realize that God still sits on that throne. Amen? Absolutely. So, God is going to give these Israelites hope. And we saw this last week. And we saw this, well, in last week's lesson, which is actually the lesson I recorded earlier today. Look at what Isaiah says. Now, Isaiah is going to go, we're going backwards, okay? We've seen Jerusalem destroyed in 586 BC. We're going to go back almost 200 years, and we're going to go back to the time of Isaiah. And this is what it says in chapter 44. Who says of Jerusalem it shall be inhabited? Now, if you're back during this time in Isaiah, everything is inhabited in the book of Isaiah. Of the towns of Judah, they shall be built. They're already built in the book of Isaiah. And the ruins, I will restore them. Ruins? What do you mean, ruins? Everything's great. Who says of the watery deep breed dry, and I will dry up your streams? Who says of Cyrus, he's my shepherd? Who? Cyrus. Cyrus is going to be a Medo-Persian king. God calls him his shepherd. His grandfather is not born yet. His father has not been born yet. And yet here Cyrus is mentioned by name, called my shepherd. He's going to say of Jerusalem and Judea, let it be built, let it be inhabited. Really? That's interesting. This is a major prophecy. And will accomplish all that I please. All that who pleases? God pleases. He will say of Jerusalem, let it be rebuilt, and the temples, let its foundations be laid. Wow. That's pretty major. In verse 40, or chapter 45, verse 1, it says, thus says the Lord to Cyrus, his anointed, whom I have taken in my right hand. To subdue nations before him, and to loose the loins of kings, to open doors before him, that gates will not be shut. God is calling Cyrus my shepherd and my anointed. A king that hasn't even been born yet. Interesting. Now, Jeremiah is a prophet that's actually living during the time of the Babylonian siege, where the Babylonians are going to take the Israelites away. Watch what he says in Jeremiah 25. Now, we saw this earlier in the video earlier today. This whole country will become a desolate wasteland. Boy, that's sad, isn't it? Judah. These nations will serve the king of Babylon 70 years. Wow, that's bad. But when the 70 years are fulfilled, I will punish the king of who? Babylon and his nation. So here, God is going to use Babylon to destroy Israel because they were ungodly. And then he's going to turn around and judge Babylon because they were ungodly and destroy them. No one's left out. What does this tell you? It tells you that God is in control. He is in full control. He always has been in control. The land of the Babylonians for their guilt declares the Lord, and I will make it desolate forever. I will bring upon that land all the things I have spoken against it, and all that was written in this book of prophecy by Jeremiah against all the nations. Nobody's left out. Nobody. And then in Jeremiah 29, he says, this is what the Lord says, when 70 years are completed for Babylon, I will come to you and fulfill my gracious promise to bring you back to this place. For I know your plans that I have for you. I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. So, is there hope here? Absolutely there's hope. God says, okay, I'm going to take you away into slavery, but at the end of 70 years, I'm going to bring you back. You're going to come back to this very place. Well, that's a prophecy. Let's see if it was fulfilled. Verse 13 says, you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart, and I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and will bring you back from captivity. I will gather you from all the nations and places where I banished you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back to the place from which I have carried you into exile. Yep, God's going to take you, and God's going to bring you back. Who's in control? God. That's right. And that is going to happen in 605 BC, okay, when he's going to start to take them away in 3 different secessions. Now, let's jump over to Daniel. We're going forward here. We're going to cover a lot of places here, a lot of different books of the Bible here. We're going to look at Daniel's prayer, and now we're going to move from the Babylonians to the Medo-Persians. Daniel 9 says, in the first year of Darius, son of Xerxes, a Mede by descent, who was made ruler over the Babylonian kingdom. Oh, Babylon is out. Who is in? This Mede named Darius. In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood from the scriptures, according to the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet, that the desolation of Jerusalem would last 70 years. Okay? So he's looking at his watch, his Walmart sundial, okay, and saying, God, the 70 years are up. And in this, he is going to pray. And he's going to start praying, God, bring us back. Let's get the sacrifices going again. Your holy hill, Jerusalem. Let's get back to where we're supposed to be. And that's what Daniel does in this chapter. And this is in 539 BC. So, the first king we have here is Darius. He is a Medo king. Okay? Now let's skip over to the book of Ezra. Remember, we're just going to be flying all over our Old Testament because it's not in chronological order. Okay? Let's go to Ezra. And let's go to Ezra chapter 1, verse 1 and 2. Now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord by the mouth of Jeremiah might be fulfilled. Okay? So Ezra is remembering what Jeremiah said. The Lord stirred up the spirit of who? Cyrus, king of Persia. Who was prophesying about Cyrus 200 years before he was born? Isaiah. Okay? So that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and also put it in writing, saying, this is what Cyrus, king of Persia, this is what he says. So here's this Persian king. He is reigning together with Darius, the Mede king. It's the Medo-Persians. There's 2 kings, there's 2 nations coming together. And they have now taken over the Babylonians. They've destroyed them. And all the slaves that they had now belong to the Medo-Persians. So what does King Cyrus do? Well, he's being stirred up by God. And what does he do? This is in 539 BC. All the kingdoms of the earth, the Lord of God of heaven has given to me. And he did. And he has commanded me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah, who is among you of all his people. May his God be with him. And let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord of God of Israel. He is a God, which is in Jerusalem. And whoever is left in any place where he dwells, let them men of this place help him with silver and gold and goods and livestock, besides the freewill offerings of the house of God, which is in Jerusalem. So what is he saying? He's saying, look, guys, you can go home. Now, it's going to take him a few years to finally pack up and get all that together and make that exodus back. But they're getting ready to go home. They're getting ready to leave, just like God promised. There's your hope. And what is God doing? He is using Cyrus, a Medo-Persian king, to accomplish this. Isn't that interesting? Can God do that? Yes. What does that tell you? God's in control. He can use whoever is king, whoever is ruling, and he can use them to carry out his purpose. And he does. So this circle is supposed to be around Cyrus here, okay? Because we already did Darius. I forgot to change that, okay? So here you got the two kings, okay? So here we are, 539 BC, okay? The Medo-Persians dominate Israel now. And then in 535, within 4 years later, they are going to eventually go back home and start to build a temple. And what is this? That is the 70 years of prophecy. Exactly like Jeremiah prophesied. In 70 years, you are going home. Fits perfectly. So there it is. Now, when they get back, they are going to build the temple. Now, it's going to take them a while, okay? People are slow, okay? Things can work slow sometimes. So now we're going to go to Ezra chapter 6. We're going to go down history a little bit. And there's some big names in here that I'm going to mispronounce, and you guys should be used to me by now, but we'll give it a shot. Then Tatarani, governor of the region beyond the river, Shethar, Banzai, and their companions diligently did according to what King Darius had sent. Now there is more than one King Darius, okay? There's a few of them actually. So the elders of the Jews built, and they prospered through the prophesying of who? A couple other books of the Bible. Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, son of Iddo. And they built and finished it according to the commandment of God of Israel. They've finished the temple. And according to the command of who? Who's playing a part in this? Cyrus, Darius, and King Artaxerxes, king of Persia. They're all playing a part in this. God's using these other kings, these pagan kings, to carry out his purpose. Now the temple was finished on the 3rd day of the month of Adar, which was in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. This is a different King Darius. Now there's some speculation on who all this is back then. You can go study that out, but there was more than one Darius. So there they are. They're building the temple. They're getting it back together, getting the sacrifices going again, and God is back where he's supposed to be, right? Meeting with him through this meeting place, right? Through the Holy of Holies. Everything is going good again. People are back. It's wonderful. And so they return, and in 516, 515, the temple is built. Now, there needs to be some other things built. How about the walls of Jerusalem for their protection? That's going to take us to the book of Nehemiah. Again, we're bouncing around that Old Testament. We're putting this package together. Nehemiah 1:1 says, the words of Nehemiah, son of Hakaliah. In the month of Kislev, this is that Jewish calendar, In the 12th year, while I was in the citadel of Susa. Susa is the Babylonian summer capital, okay? Or winter capital, I'm sorry. They would go down there in the winter because it's a little bit warmer, all right? Hanai, one of the brothers, came from Judah with some other men. Hananiah, there we go. And I questioned them about the Jewish remnant that survived the exile, and also about Jerusalem. So here's some people that went home to the Exodus, okay? Not all the Jews left. Apparently, Nehemiah stayed back, okay? He's working for the king, as we'll see here in a minute. Some brothers come from Jerusalem to Susa and report, hey, this is what's going on with the Jews back there at home. And they said to me, those who survived the exile are back in the province, are in great trouble and disgrace. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates have been burned with fire. It's not good, is it? And that all happened, that's all been that way, all the way back from the Babylonians. It's never been corrected. When I heard these things, I sat down and wept. For some days I mourned and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven. And I said, and then he prays, and he has a long prayer to help his people. Now this is really moving Nehemiah. The temple's rebuilt. They're back home, but those walls are still torn down. Those gates are still burned. And those enemies are just having their way with those Jewish people. And this moves him. So what he's going to do is he's going to go in and see the king. This is going to be King Artaxerxes now, okay? And it came about in the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of King Artaxerxes, this is a Medo-Persian king, that wine was before him, and I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Why is he doing this? Because he's the cupbearer. Now think about this. Nehemiah is the most trusted man in the Medo-Persian Empire. He is bringing wine to the king. He's the most trusted because the cupbearer would drink the wine first, and if he didn't die, then the king could drink it. So he has to have somebody that he really, really trusts. And that's his position here, okay? And he says, now I have not been sad in his presence. So he wasn't sad. He wasn't showing his sadness to him yet. So the king said to me, why is your face sad, though you are not sick? So now he can see his sadness. What's going on here, Nehemiah? I know you well. This is nothing but sadness of heart. And then I was very much afraid. Ever been afraid? Absolutely, I have. Okay? So you're going up to the king. You're afraid. And he says, let the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city, the place of my father's tombs, lies desolate, and its gates have been consumed by fire? Then the king said to me, what would you request? What's your request to me? So I prayed to the God of heaven. So here he is having this conversation with him, and he just stops and prays. I've had conversations with people. I have conversations with people when I'm out studying with them. And I'm like, God, help me with these words, or help me say the right thing. They may be talking, and I am literally praying to God, asking for help. Okay? Because I'm afraid. I want to get this right. So we can do that. It's a good thing to do, is to pray to God. Get God involved in here. Okay? So Nehemiah does. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you may send me to Judah, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it. Let me go back and rebuild those walls. Let me go back and rebuild those gates. And the king said to me, with the king sitting by his side, that's a good thing, because that queen is going to butter that king up. Good move. How long will you be gone, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me when I had given him a time. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given to me, to the governors of the province beyond the river, that they may let me pass through until I come to Judah. Give me some letters for safe travel. That's his first request. And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest. That's his second request. That he may give me timber to make beams for the gates of the fortress of the temple, and for the wall of the city, and for the house that I may occupy. I'm going to need somewhere to live. That's his third request. No, let me see. Second request. Letters, yes. And then this. And then he granted me that of what I asked, for my God was upon me. Okay, I can't see right behind my picture there. I apologize. God was with him. So he's getting these requests. He's going to let him go. He's given him letters for safe travel. He's given him a letter so he can get lumber and stuff, so he can build his house, build the walls, and build whatever. And then he's going to let him go. And then the king is going to give him something else. He's going to give him an army to protect him, to get him to where he needs to go. And he didn't even ask for that. And that's later on in the chapter. Isn't that amazing? He asked all of these things. Is God showing his grace here? Absolutely. He's showing his grace. So here he goes. He leaves here. This is Susa. You see the arrows here right above my head here. And then he goes all the way back through Babylon and back to Jerusalem. But when he gets there, this is what he finds. Those walls are down. I mean, it's bad. It's bad. And so they're having to fight the enemy with one hand and have a trowel in the other hand to fix the wall. And they're having to do this at the same time. It's tough. Nehemiah 6:15 through 17. So the wall was finished on the 25th day of the month of Elul in 52 days. That's amazing. 52 days, you guys put these walls back together? You put the gates back up? He did, because God's gracious hand was with him. And when all the enemies heard of it, all the nations around us were afraid and fell greatly in their own esteem, for they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of our God. They could see God's hand in it. And that's what I want God to do. I always want people to see God's hand in their lives. Pagan people. People that don't even believe in God. That's the thing that I pray for. God, let them see you working in their lives. That's my prayer so many times. So Nehemiah, he builds the wall and he built the people. So that's 445 BC. The walls are now rebuilt. So we're working down the timeline here. And then the Grecian Empire comes in. Okay? So now we're going to go to Daniel chapter 8. Again, I told you your Old Testament's not in order. Not even your books of the Old Testament are always in order, how they're laid out within the book. Well, Daniel was watching the vision and trying to understand it. So he has this vision. There before me stood one who looked like a man. And I heard a man's voice from the Eula, calling, Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of the vision. Gabriel. We see Gabriel with the birth of Jesus, right? He's going to show up not only in the Old Testament here, but he's going to show up in the New Testament. As he came near the place where I was standing, I was terrified and fell prostrate. Son of man, he said to me, understand that the vision concerns the time of the end. Now, if I was to ask you, what does the time of the end mean? You're going to think of the end of the world, right? But you got to stay with context here. This is not talking about the end of the world. Okay? You have to see what the end that he's talking about here is. While he was speaking to me, I was in a deep sleep. My face was to the ground, and then I touched and he raised me to my feet. Verse 19. And he said, I am going to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath, because the vision concerns the appointed time of the end. We're going to see what end that is. The two-horned ram, this is part of his vision, you saw represented what? The kings of the Medo-Persians. We've been talking about the Medo-Persians, right? The shaggy goat is the king of Greece. That's the Grecian Empire that's going to come in next. That's who we're talking about here. And the large horn between his eyes is the first king that comes from the Grecian Empire. That's going to be Alexander the Great. The four horns that replaced the one that was broken off, so King Alexander will be broken off, will represent four kingdoms that will emerge from this nation but will not have the same power. So we're dealing with the time of the Medo-Persian Empire moving into the Grecian Empire. That's what we're dealing with. So there they are. There's his vision. You got the two-horned ram. That's the kings of Babylon, the Medo-Persians. And then over here you've got the shaggy goat. This is the king of Greece, the first king, and that is Alexander the Great. And then that horn that's in the middle, that little red spot there, is broken off. And then there will be four other generals that will take place according to history. And they will divide that kingdom up into four parts. Still the Grecian Empire. Here are those four parts. Can you see them? There it is. Now we're going to focus now on the one down at the bottom. Okay, the one at the bottom. This is where Israel is at. Watch what's going to happen. Verse 23 of chapter 8 of Daniel. In the latter part of their reign, those four generals that are going to reign and split up the kingdom in four parts. When rebels have become completely wicked, a stern-faced king, a master of intrigue, will arise. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause astonishing devastation, will succeed in whatever he does. He will destroy the mighty men and the holy people. The holy people, this has got to be the Israelites. He will cause deceit to prosper, and he will consider himself superior. And when they feel secure, the Israelites, he will destroy many and take his stand against the prince of princes. And yet he will be destroyed, but not by human power. That's a lot. Now here's a prophecy that Daniel is making, far to the future. But this is the Grecian Empire. Okay, now this has already taken place. This is going to happen over here. Here's Israel returns, right? There's the temple. There's the walls. And then here comes another empire, the Grecian Empire. Medo-Persians are now gone. Alexander the Great takes over. And then between 169 and 163, here comes this guy out of this kingdom called Antiochus Epiphanes, the fourth. And he will cause much devastation in Israel. And then in 63 BC, the Romans will come in. So let's focus on Antiochus Epiphanes. He's going to come in, he's going to destroy things, but here's the thing. The Maccabees are going to come in, they're going to destroy him, they're going to take this guy out, and he will be destroyed. And God is showing hope and grace. And that's what happens. So you just got kingdom after kingdom after kingdom. Here's the Israelites living during this whole time, and yet bad people come in, and God blesses them. Gets them through. People are killed, yes. People are destroyed. Some of it was because of their unfaithfulness. Some of it was just because bad people came in. But yet, at the end of it all, God's still in control. He's still in control of it all. And he took out Antiochus Epiphanes, just like the rest of Daniel 8 says. And that shows us that he's in control. And that's what I want us to learn. And then that's going to bring us to the book of Malachi. That's going to end out our Old Testament. It's going to fit in between there. And then we're going to come to the time of Jesus. That's your history. A lot of history. Putting it all together. There's a lot there, isn't there? But it's a love story. It's God's love story, and he's telling us he loves us. But just like was told to me today, somebody was asking me about Romans 8:28, right? All things work to the good of those who love the Lord. And I told this person, you got to make sure that the only way for that verse to work is you've got to love the Lord. If you love the Lord and you follow the Lord with all of your heart, then all things will work to the good. You may even die in the process, but it will still work to the good as long as you love him. And I pray that you love the Lord. And I pray that I love the Lord, so that only good things will happen in our lives, that it will always be God's plan. It'll always come out, and we will always come out as winners. If you're with God, you can't lose. Even if you die, you cannot lose. Doesn't matter who's president. Doesn't matter who's king. Doesn't matter who's running the world. God's still on his throne. And you can't lose with him. I pray you're with him. If I can help you in any way, please give me a holler at Brown Street Church of Christ in Waxahachie, Texas. And folks, we will see you next time. Our next lesson, we're going to look at John the Baptist. God bless you.